Day 15,
Welcome to
Car
day
Audio
15 of
School.
your car audio school. This school is teach you how to do your own install, become a shop technician should you want to do that, become a shop manager or a shop owner. This is my body of work, my online resume to teach you how to stay out the shops and do it yourself. Of course, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only. We're going to get right into it. Yesterday we talked about amplitude, and today we're going to talk about decibels. So my energy is very low today, so we're going to make it work. All right. So again, I have double notes for you, but we are going to start on this side. So. Talking about decibels, think of decibels often written as lowercase d, uppercase b, as a special kind of measuring stick for sound and electrical signals, especially when talking about how loud something is or how strong an electrical signal it is. Instead of using regular numbers, which can sometimes get very big or very small very quickly, decibels use a clever system to make these differences easier to grasp. What they're talking about here is instead of going linear, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then even going backwards on the negative scale, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, they jump numbers. So it's pretty much starting at 0, and it goes in sections of 3 dB. And these are gradual sound differences that the ear can pick up, but they're not in tiny small numbers that can get very big or very small very quickly. The sources highlight that the decibel is a way to express differences as a ratio. So they're doing it in a ratio and not in a sequential number pattern, which is useful for comparing ranges of measurements that are too wide to work with easily using standard linear scales. Imagine the volume knob on your phone or car stereo. You might go from a very quiet whisper to a much louder sound. The difference in loudness between these 2 points can be huge. Instead of saying the louder sound is, for example, 100 times stronger than the quieter one, which can be hard to imagine, we use decibels. All right, so decibels are like shortcuts for talking about big changes in sound and power. A small change in decibel can actually represent a significant change in the amount of sound or energy or electrical power. So before we do that, let's come over here and look at these notes. Think of decibels, dB, as a special way of measuring how loud something is. It's not simple 1, 2, 3 scale because our ears, it just wouldn't, our ears don't like that. It doesn't register to our ears. So here's a breakdown. It's like a shortcut to big numbers. Instead of saying one sound is a lot more powerful than another, we use decibels. It's a relative scale. Decibels always compare a sound to a quiet starting point, almost silence. And then small changes in dB can mean big changes in loudness. A jump of 10 dB sounds roughly twice as loud to our ears. So 20 dB is much more louder, or twice the loudness as 10 dB. Let me say that again. So 20 dB is much more than just twice as loud as 10 dB. So, and it's hard to explain without visuals. And admittedly, I get caught up on this too, because I used to do a whole lot of music mixing, and it would start at 0 dB, and then it would go to 3 dB, which is twice as loud as 0 dB. And then it will go to 6 dB, which is twice as loud as 3 dB. But it gets confusing. Think of it like the rungs on a ladder. Each step makes a noticeable difference in loudness. This one, I'm going to have to show you a visual for this, because there's not a whole other lot of ways to show you this. The volume bar on your phone, let me do this one. Just like a small change on a Richter scale, and we're talking about earthquakes, means a much bigger earthquake. A small change in dB means a much bigger change in sound intensity. I don't really like that one. All right, so let's continue with some more analogies, because this one is harder for me to explain. Think of it like climbing stairs instead of a very long ramp. If you had to walk up a ramp that goes from the ground floor all the way to the top of a skyscraper, it would be very gradual and a long climb. dB, or decibels, are like steps on the staircase. Each step, each decibel, or a few decibel, gets you noticeably higher or louder, and it's easier to think about climbing a few steps than walking a massive distance on a gentle slope. So I guess it would be like taking an elevator compared to taking the stairs, and gradually going from the ground floor to the top floor. You would definitely notice the pitch upward in sound or intensity, whereas instead of that gradual climb, the elevator would go up a floor. We'll call that 3 dB, and then we'll go up a floor, and we'll call that 6 dB, and we'll go up a floor, and we'll call that 9 dB. It climbs in that horizontal fashion, whether or instead of a gradual climb, where you can hear the change, but you won't really hear the change. But going in steps, you would hear it get louder and louder and louder, noticeably louder. Relating to amplitude, which is what we talked about yesterday, remember that amplitude is the strength or power of the sound wave. When we increase the amplitude, the sound gets louder. Decibels help us quantify how much louder it got. And then there are some key things to understand about decibel based on the source. A 3 dB increase is a noticeable but not dramatic change in loudness. The source indicates that doubling the power applied to the speaker results in only a minor increase in volume, typically around 3 dB. So to make the sound twice as loud, to our ears, which is subjective and perception, that is not a direct doubling of power, you need a much larger increase than 3 dB. Okay, so 10 dB. A 10 dB increase is generally perceived as being twice as loud, while the sources don't explicitly state twice as loud. They do emphasize that the real noticeable difference in sound pressure level, SPL, requires a considerable increase in the power, perhaps 4 times or more. To achieve a plus 10 dB SPL, sound pressure level increase, you need 100 times the original amplifier power. This highlights the logarithm nature of the decibels and how they relate to our perception of loudness. So yeah, this is getting interesting. I'm just going to go a little bit more because I'm not going to be able to give you what I want to give you in this, because there's a lot of what's it called, vocabulary, which is what I should have did. And what I may still do, I may put out a vocabulary list of terms that are used to make this much easier, because I'm realizing that that's one thing that I'm not giving you, and I'm throwing a bunch of words out to you, and small bites, baby steps. I'll just give you one more. In short, decibels are a way to talk about the size of changes in sound and electrical signals in a way that makes sense to our ears. Because our hearing is not linear, we do not perceive a doubling of sound energy as a doubling of loudness. Decibels provide a logarithmic scale that better matches how we experience sound. So I'm leaving out at least 4 other paragraphs that I am going to either save for tomorrow or figure out how I can explain it better with visuals. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about impedance, otherwise known as ohms. So that's going to be a fun topic. I will put all the information below or to the side in the comment section. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comments. Tip your techs, donate here. We need tools, and I'll see you tomorrow.